That defense settled something deep inside her later. She thanked him. He shrugged, said nothing that night. She lay awake not from fear, but from feeling cinchy. Thought about the truth she had shared, how it no longer felt as heavy as she wondered what he carried had taught him. Silence. Days past. Work continued. The land changed color with the seasons. She felt stronger, not just in body and spirit. Yet one truth remained unsaid. Deepest one, the reason she ran so far. It patient, she sensed the moment would come. Silence would no longer be enough, and when it did, she hoped he would still be there. She woke to the sound of birds and the soft glow of early morning. The barn smelled of hay and earth. Her body moved with the rhythm she had learned, each step measured and steady. The cowboy was already outside, his figure strong against the light. He worked without hurry, each motion deliberate. She carried feed to the horses, the weight in her arms familiar and grounding. She felt the rhythm in her bones. Work was no longer just survival, it was presence. The land stretched beyond what she could see upon an honest, no walls to hide behind, no one to tell her she was too much. She felt the air fill her lungs with possibility. He said little as usual. Words were unnecessary, actions carried meaning. He showed her where to mend a fence, where to stack the hay, when to move quietly so the horses would not startle. She watched him learn the silence. Pauses between movements held lessons. He did not rush, and neither could she. One afternoon, she sat on a fence looking out at the horizon, the sky painted with soft colors. Her hands rested in her lap. Her thoughts wandered. She thought about the people she had left behind, those who had let her down, those who had taken advantage. Her heart ached. But she did not cry. She had learned to carry pain quietly. The cowboy approached. He did not speak. He merely stood near her. The space between them filled with calm. She felt the words stir again, truth rising from her chest. She wanted to share the deepest fears and secrets, but the fear held her back, not of him, of the world, of being seen and judged. She recalled a night from long ago. Fire burned low in a small room, voices shouting outside. She hid beneath a blanket, hoping no one would find her. She had run ever since, from fear, from people, from memories, from herself. He did not ask. He did not press. He simply stayed. The quiet allowed her mind to untangle. Peace, each thought laid bare without shame. She realized how long it had been since someone let her simply be. Even as she worked the barn, she felt the difference. Her movements freer, her breath lighter. She noticed small details she had missed before: a bird resting on the fence, a horse shaking its mane in the sunlight, the way the wind bent the grass. She began to see herself in the land, strong yet flexible, patient yet resilient one. Evening, she carried water from the well, the bucket heavy but manageable. He walked beside her, did not speak, just steady presence. She felt safe in ways she had not in years, though fear remained at the edges, but it had softened. She recalled another memory, a time when trust had been broken. A friend had promised care, then left without explanation. Her heart had hardened after that. Now the hardness softened. She realized she could feel without fear of ruin. The night fell slow, and gentle stars appeared one by one, the land dark and quiet. She lay in her room listening to the sounds outside. She thought about the cowboy, about his silence, about the way he did not judge or push. She understood. Now that silence could be full of space for truth, full of room for mistakes, full of acceptance. She felt the words gather again, not for anyone else, not for the world, but for him. She wanted to speak, and maybe one day she would. The trust was building. Brick by brick, step by step, morning came again. She rose with either body awake and aware, the land waiting. She moved with purpose, each task deliberate, each step a choice. She watched him work, noticing the small gestures, the way he cared for animals, the way he respected the land. It inspired her not to mimic, but to grow in her own way. She carried the feed and stacked the hay. Her muscles remembered the rhythm, her mind clearer than it had been in years. She realized something important: she could survive and thrive, not because of him, but because he had shown her a way to trust again. His past and quiet routine. The bond between them grew, not spoken, not declared, but felt. She started to share small truths, little pieces of herself, stories of past struggles, lessons learned. He listened, no interruption, no judgment, just presence. The land held them both, The barn held them both. The silence between them became a language. She felt hope bloom slowly fragile, yet real. She knew the deeper truth would command. She would be ready. Evening sun stretched long shadows. She watched them and felt a strange comfort even. In darkness, there was light. She slept that night with a sense of calm. Her body tired, but her mind at ease. The world outside was harsh. The world inside could be safe. She understood that trust could be built slowly, that truth could wait for the right moment. Presence without words could heal wounds that words could not reach. And she waited, knowing the time would come. Time when her deepest truth would finally be spoken. The morning light seeped gently through the window. She rose slowly, feeling the quiet of the barn and the land. Her body stretched, her mind alert. She prepared for the day without hurry. Her hands moved naturally. She had learned the rhythm. She knew the land and the animals. The cowboy was already outside. He moved through the tasks with steady purpose, action measured. She joined him, carrying feed to the horses, the weight familiar and grounding, each step a reminder of how far she had come. They worked without words, the silence comfortable now. Heavy, not empty, it held understanding. She felt the truth pressing closer, the part of her past that had never been shared, the part that had driven her from home and people. She thought of the nights she had spent alone, the fear that had followed her like a shadow, the moments she had whispered truths into the dark, hoping someone would hear. Now the space beside her held someone who did not rush or judge, someone who simply let her exist. During midday, she carried water and arranged hay. Her mind wandered and returned to memories. She remembered a betrayal, a person she had trusted completely, someone who had promised care and protection and then left without notice. The pain from that memory had never fully faded. It had shaped every choice, every path, every hesitation. She realized she could not hide it anymore. She had tried to be strong alone. She had tried to survive without sharing. The cowboy approached. He did not speak. He simply offered a hand to steady her. When the bucket shifted, she looked at him and felt courage stir there. Truth wanted to come. She felt the fear too, the fear of being seen and rejected. She set the bucket down and took a deep breath. The words she had carried for years found a small opening. She began slowly. She spoke of fear and loneliness, of nights when hope felt far away, of people who had promised safety and then left her. Voice wavered but did not break. Each word released weight from her chest. The cowboy listened. Oh, interruptions, no. Judgment, just present. She told him about her mistakes, the choices made in desperation, the times she had run instead of confronting the moments she had tried to hold herself together alone. She paused and looked at him. His eyes steady, his calm made the world feel less heavy. She continued. The deepest truth emerged. The reason she had left everything behind, the secret she had carried in silence. Fear that had driven her across miles and through hardships. He did not respond immediately. He simply let her speak, the silence between them full of understanding. She realized the act of speaking, it had already lifted some burden. Truth no longer a weight to carry alone. He finally spoke, his voice calm and quiet. He said, everyone carries something heavy. Said some carry it too long by themselves. She nodded. The words did not surprise her. Confirmed what she had felt, that being seen and acknowledged could heal. From that moment the day's changed work continued, but there was a new rhythm of trust. And presence meals were shared side by side, not needing conversation, just acknowledgement. She felt lighter, her steps freer, her hands steadier. The land itself seemed to respond. The animals calmed, the wind soft. Sun gentle. People from town noticed her change. They saw confidence and composure. They saw a woman who belonged. Whispers followed lest she no longer feared judgment. Barnon and the land had become her sanctuary. The cowboy's presence remained constant, not invasive, not demanding, simply steady. One evening, she walked the fence line. He followed at a distance, the sky deep and wide. She felt the urge to speak again. She told him about small joys, moments that had given her hope, ways she had learned to find light in darkness. He listened. He acknowledged her courage with nods and gestures, no words needed. Night Fell stars scattered across the sky. She lay awake thinking about the journey from fear to honesty, from solitude to shared present. She understood now the power of trust, the importance of speaking even. When afraid, the relief of letting truth be seen days turned into weeks. Her bond with him grew, not spoken, not labeled, but felt deeply. She arrived with nothing but a small bag and a tired body. The road behind her felt longer than the miles she had walked. She had left before dawn because staying meant sinking deeper into a life that kept closing its doors. Every step forward felt like a risk, yet standing still felt worse. She had learned that silence could be loud when it followed you everywhere. The town sat quiet under a wide skywood building, stood like tired witnesses to many stories. Dust moved slowly across the street as if it also had nowhere to go. People watched her pass with careful eyes. No one asked her name, no one offered a smile. She felt the weight of being unseen and judged at the same time. She had come west because there were fewer questions here. One knew her past, no one knew the nights she had spent awake counting breaths, no one knew how many times she had told herself to be strong. Strength was a word people used, is aliving. It was something else. Her shoes were worn thinner. Hands showed the marks of work done without rest. She had worked kitchens and fields and small shops. Each place promised a chance, then quietly took it back when money ran out. She learned how to stretch hunger into something almost bearable. Still, the fear stayed close. The sky that day felt too big. Clouds moved slow and high. She wondered if they ever felt lost. She wondered if anyone noticed when they changed shape. These thoughts came when she was tired. They helped her forget the ache in her legs. At the edge of town stood a spread of land that looked different. The fence was simple and strong beyond it. The ground rolled open and clean. There was a barn set back from the road. Its wood was dark from age and weather. Nearby, a man worked without hurry. He moved with calm purpose. Each action seemed chosen, and sure he did not look up when she passed. Not at first. His hat shaded his face. His shoulders were broad from work, not show. He spoke to no one. People in town had mentioned him without saying much. They said he kept to himself. They said he paid fair and asked little. They said he did not talk unless needed. No one said more than that. She did not plan to stop there. Her plan was simple and thin. Find work. Find a place to sleep. Do not be sent away. Again, plans like that lived close to fear, but her feet slowed near the fence. She did not know why. Maybe it was the quiet. Maybe it was the way the land felt open and honest. Maybe it was the man who did not look at her like she was trouble. She leaned on the fence for a moment. The wood was rough, but steady. Her breath came shallow. She told herself to move on. The road ahead led to a small boarding house. She had heard it took in women for work. She had also heard it turned many away. The man finally looked up. His eyes were steady and clear. They held no rush, no judgment, just attention. He did not smile. He did not frown. He simply weighed. She felt her chest tighten. Words crowded her mind, then slipped away. She was not used to being seen like that. Not really sane. She looked down at the dust. He nodded once, a small gesture. It felt like permission to exist. She did not know how much she needed that. She stepped away from the fence, then stopped. Her body made the choice before her mind. Did she turn back? Her voice came out low and unsure. She said she was looking for work. He listened. He did not interrupt. He did not ask her to repeat herself. When she finished, he waited a breath. Longer. Then he said, "There might be something." His voice was calm and rough from use. He said it would not be easy. He said the days were long. He said he paid fair. He said little else. She nodded. Easy was not something she expected anymore. Long days were familiar fare. Pay sounded like hope. He told her where to find water. He told her where to sleep for the night. A small room near the barn, clean and simple. She thanked him. The words felt too small. She wanted to say more. She wanted to explain herself, but she did not know how. That night she lay on a narrow bed. The room smelled of wood and clean air. She listened to the wind move outside. Her body ached. Her mind would not rest. She thought about the path that had led her a childhood, that taught her to be key at a home that felt temporary, even when it was meant to last. She learned early not to ask for much when she grew older. She tried to change her story. She Left places that hurt. She trusted people who promised help. Some meant well, some did not teach time, she told herself to keep going. Being alone was not new, but the way it pressed on her chest felt heavier now. She wondered how long a person could carry truth without speaking it. Morning came soft and pale. She rose before being called. She washed her face with cold water. It woke her senses, and her fear work began without ceremony. She was shown tasks with simple gestures: clean the stalls, carry fed men what needed mending. She worked hard. She always had her hands moved without complaint, her back bent and straightened. In steady rhythm she focused on each task. It helped quiet her thoughts. He worked nearby, always present, never watching too close. He spoke when needed, mostly about the work, nothing more. At midday they rested. He handed her food, bread and meat, simple and filling. He turned away while she ate, as if to give her dignity. That small act stayed with her. She realized how rare it was to be given space without being pushed away. As days passed, the pattern held work, quiet rest. She began to breathe easier. Her shoulders dropped. Her sleep deepened. Yet something inside her remained tight, not of words. She had never sought a truth she carried alone. It had shaped her choices. It followed her across miles. She watched him sometimes, the way he fixed a gate, the way he stood still and listened to the land. She wondered what made a man choose silence. People from town came and went. They spoke more than he did. They asked questions she did not answer. He did not step in, but his presence was enough. One evening the sky turned gold. The day had been long. Her body felt heavy. They stood near the fence, the same place she had first stopped. She felt the words rise again. The truth pressed close. Her chest tightened. She did not know if she would ever speak. Eth stood beside her, not facing her, just there. The quiet between them felt different. Now it felt like space rather than absence. She realized then why she stayed, not just for work or shelter, but because the silence did not judge her. It waited. That night she understood something simple and deep. Desperation had brought her here, but honesty might be what kept her. She did not speak yet, but the truth was closer than it had ever been, waiting for the moment she would finally let it out. The days began to blend together in a quiet, steady way. She woke before the light reached the barn doors. Her body moved from habit now, not fear. Work no longer felt like something she had to earn. It felt like something she belonged to. She learned the land without being taught. Which boards creaked, butch gate stuck after rain, which horse liked its head scratched before feed. These small details made her feel rooted. You noticed, though he never said, tasks became fewer, instructions and more trust. He would leave her to handle things alone, then return later and nod once. That nod carried more weight than words. Sometimes she tried to speak the truth pressed close behind her ribs, but when she opened her mouth it stayed hidden. Fear had learned patience. The silence between them grew familiar, not empty, not heavy. It felt like sitting beside a calm fire, warm, without asking anything back. One afternoon, the sky darkened. Early wind rolled across the land. She hurried to close the barn doors. Rain began hard and sudden. Her hands slipped on wet wood. He appeared beside her without warning. Together they pulled the door shut, their shoulders brush. She froze for a moment, not from fear, from surprise. He stepped back at once, gave her space. That simple respect eased her breath. They waited out the storm inside. Drain drummed loud on the roof. The world shrank to the space they shared. She felt the words again, stronger. Now her past pushed forward like a tide. She stared at the floor. Her voice came out before she decided. She said she had nowhere else to go. She said she had tried to start over many times. She said she was tired of pretending it did not hurt. He did not answer right away. He leaned against the wall, listened. She kept going. One started the truth. Demanded ere she spoke of nights spent afraid to sleep, of being told she was too much or not enough. Trusting the wrong people because she needed to believe someone cared. Her voice shook, but did not break. She surprised herself with that. When she stopped, the rain had softened, the quiet returned. He finally spoke, just a few words. He said, "Everyone carries something." He said, "Some people carry it alone." Too long. She nodded. Tears burned but did not fall. She would not cry here, not you, Tafter. That day something shifted. He did not ask questions, but he stayed closer, not watching, just present. Meals were shared more Often not facing each other side by side, she found herself waiting for those moments, not for talk for company people. In town began to look at her differently, not as someone passing through, but someone who stayed. Whispers followed her. She ignored them then. Land had given her thicker skin one evening. A woman from town spoke sharp words, questioned why she was there, why he let her stay. He answered before she could, his voice steady. He said, she worked hard. He said that was enough. She continued to work the land, her body strong, her mind calm. Every now and then, she would look at him grateful for his quiet acceptance, for his patience, for giving her space to be herself. She knew the final pieces of her past could be shared, the deepest fears and secret sand she felt. Ready, knowing he would not turn away. The barn and the land had become a place of safety. The cowboy a witness to her courage, a steady presence. She knew the moment of full revelation would come, when the last truth would be spoken, when the silence would finally give way to understanding. She felt hope rise gently, fragile but real. The fear softened, bonds strengthened. She waited patiently for the day she could speak fully and know she was safe. The morning was quiet and soft. The sun rose slowly across the wide land. She woke with a sense of purpose, her body strong from days of work, her mind alert and calm. She moved through the barn with familiar motions, every step measured and steady. The horses looked to her with trust. Land felt alive under her hands. He was already outside working, as he always did. Movement deliberate and calm. Today felt different. Though she could not explain why, the air seemed lighter, the space between them held something new. She carried feed to the horses, her hands steady, her heart quiet but aware. She felt the truth pressing gently from within. She wanted to speak fully the words she had held for years, the deepest fears and secrets. The reason she had come here alone. The cowboy moved beside her, not speaking, just present. The silence between them now felt like space to breathe, not emptiness. She took a deep breath. Her voice came slowly and steady. She began to speak. She told him everything. The betrayals that had left her cautious, the moments she had felt abandoned, nights she had spent in fear and solitude, the choices she had made to survive. Her voice did not tremble, her words flowed like a river. The years of silence lifted with each sentence. He listened, no interruption, no judgment. He presence, his eyes steady and calm. She spoke of hope lost and found, of dreams she had tried to protect, of the courage it had taken to arrive. Here the cowboy nodded, once a simple gesture, but it carried more meaning than words ever could. She realized she no longer carried the weight alone. The truth was no longer a burden. It was shared. They worked side by side after that teach task, filled with quiet understanding. The land seemed to hum with life. The barn felt warmer, the horses calmer. She began to feel lighter steps, more confident hands, steady. Her heart open to possibility. The town noticed her change. People who once whispered now looked at her with respect. She was no longer a stranger passing through. She belonged. The cowboy never changed his quiet ways, but the bond between them grew, not spoken, not forced, but real and strong. She found joy in small things, the way the wind bent the grass, sound of the horses breathing, the warmth of sun on her back. She learned to trust again, to believe in the goodness of presence too. Know that honesty and patience could heal wounds. One evening she stood on the fence line. He approached and stood beside her, not needing to speak. The sky stretched wide and soft. She felt the urge to share one last thing, a piece of herself she had never given, the memory of a promise broken, the fear she had carried across miles. She told him slowly, her voice calmed, the fear softened by his presence, the silence between them full of understanding. He acknowledged her courage. Not a small gesture, but it felt like the world had shifted from that day forward. She felt complete in a way she never had. The truth had been spoken. Fear no longer pressing, the bond strong and steady. The barn became a place of safety and growth, the land a reminder of resilience. The cowboy, a witness and companion. Days continued with work and quiet moments. She carried feed, mended fences, tended animals, each act grounding and meaningful. She smiled more often, her heart lighter, her body steady. The land and the barn held them both, a space of trust and presence where past Fears no longer ruled. Where honesty brought freedom, she realized that speaking the truth had changed her, had not just lifted fear, it had given her strength and courage, though. Cowboy remained quiet but attentive, his actions gentle and consistent, his presence a steady support. People from town respected the work and dedication. They saw a woman who had faced the world and found strength. She found joy in routines and small moments, in the quiet presence beside her. At night, she lay awake under stars, her body tired but her mind calm. She felt peace for the first time in years. The fear that had driven her west was gone, replaced by trust and hope. The land and the barn were home. Natha Cowboy, a partner in presence, not just in work. The silence between them, full of understanding and respect. She knew the future would bring challenges, but she also knew she was strong, that she could face life with honesty and courage, that she was no longer alone. The journey had been long and difficult, but it had led her to safety too. Understanding too, hope. She smiled at the sunrise, the wind on her face, the sound of horses nearby, the quiet that now felt full of life. She had spoken the truth, she had been heard. She had found a place where she belonged. For the first time in years, she felt free. Morning came gentle and calm across the wide land. She woke feeling the warmth of sunlight on her face. The barn smelled of hay and fresh earth. Her body stretched easily, her mind clear and steady. The cowboy was already outside. He worked with quiet purpose. She motioned, careful and deliberate. She joined him, carrying feed to the horses. Rhythm of work, comforting the weight, grounding her in the present. She felt the land beneath her feet, the wind on her face. The past seemed far away now. Days of fear and running had softened her heart, lighter and open. She moved through tasks with ease, mending fences, stacking hay, tending animals, her hands steady, her mind focused. He worked nearby, not speaking, but always attentive. Silence between them, full of understanding and trust. She remembered the moment she had finally spoken her truth. Weight lifting from her chest, the fear that had followed her for years easing. She realized how far she had come from a woman desperate and alone to one grounded and strong. The town began to see her differently, not as a stranger or a woman passing through, but as someone who belonged, someone capable, someone steady. People would nod as they passed. Hey, small gesture but meaningful. She noticed the difference and felt pride. One afternoon, she walked along the fence line. The cowboy followed at a distance. She felt the urge to share small thoughts, not burdens now, but reflections. She spoke softly about the beauty of the land, the patience required in work, the quiet lessons the horses taught. Hari listened silently, his presence full and supportive, not intrusive. Just steady. She began to share hopes for the future, simple wishes, dreams she had learned to keep safe. She realized she could plan now without fear or hesitation. Evenings became moments of quiet reflection. They worked together through the day, then sat near the barn in calm, watching the sun sink behind the hills. She learned to notice small joys, the way light moved across the land, the sound of the wind in the grass, the softness of horse fur under her hands. She carried water from the well and filled troughs, her movements strong and steady. She felt capable and confident. The cowboy remained a constant presence, not demanding attention, not forcing conversation, just being there. Her confidence grew each day. She began to take initiative, planning tasks she thought important, caring for the land and animals. People in town took notes. She no longer felt invisible. They saw her skills and determination. They respected her dedication and resilience. She reflected on her journey, the hardships faced alone, the moments of despair and fear, the steps she had taken to reach this place. She felt gratitude, not just for safety and work, but for the chance to be seen and understood, for the presence of someone who respected her journey. One morning, the sky was wide and clear. She walked through the fields with purpose. The cowboy followed quietly, not speaking, but attentive. She spoke about the rhythm of life, lessons she had learned from the land, from animals, from quiet work. He listened, no words, but full attention. She felt heard and validated. Even small tasks brought satisfaction, mending fences, feeding horses, carrying water, each action a reminder of how far she had come. Her heart was lighter, the fear of rejection gone. She felt courage to face any challenge. She began to think About the future, not just survival, but growth, not just presence, but connection. The land and barn were no longer just shelter, they were a place of learning and strength, a place where trust and honesty flourished. She spoke softly about past regrets. Not in shame, but as lessons learned. He acknowledged silently the weight of years shared without words of innings. Became calm and reflective, they watched the sun set together. No need for conversation, the presence enough. She realized that freedom came not from escaping the past, but from facing it and being seen from trust and honesty. The cowboy remained steady, his calm presence a reminder that not all bonds required words, some were built on quiet respect and patience. She felt ready for what lay ahead, prepared for challenges, equipped with strength and understanding. The days passed in quiet purpose, her body strong, her mind clear. Land thriving under their care, she felt a sense of completion. The journey from desperation to trust fully realized the silence. In presence now a foundation, the barn and land held safety. The cowboy held steady support. She held courage and honesty. Understood now that life could be simple and full at the same time, work and quiet moments, giving meaning, presence, and trust. Creating strength, she smiled as she walked through the fields. The wind on her face, the sound of animals nearby, the land stretching wide and open. She had spoken her truth. She had been heard. She had found safety and belonging. And with that knowledge, she felt peace, confidence, hope, and a quiet joy that had eluded her for years mourning. She had found certainty in presence, trust, and honesty. And as the seasons changed, she remained grounded, the land and the cowboy a constant, her own courage and resilience unshakable. She knew that life would continue to offer challenges, but now she faced them with strength and clarity. The fear that had followed her was gone, replaced by trust and understanding, and so each day she moved forward. The land beneath her feet, the sky above the barn, and animals around her, the cowboy quietly present. She lived fully in each moment, no longer desperate, no longer alone. Her truth spoken and received, her future open and hopeful. The sun rose over the wide open land. She woke slowly, feeling the warmth on her face. Her body moved easily from the long work of yesterday. The barn smelled of hay and fresh earth. Her mind clear and calm, she stepped outside, the air crisp and alive with the sound of birds and the soft wind. She watched the land stretch out before her, rolling hills and fields wide and open, the horizon endless. The cowboy was already at work, each movement deliberate and steady. He carried feed and arranged tools, the rhythm of his work grounding and strong. She took a deep breath and joined him, carrying feed to the horses. Her hands steady, her steps sure. Work familiar and comforting. Each morning felt like a new beginning. The land held lessons and reminders. The horses taught patience, the wind taught observation, the sun taught endurance. She moved through her tasks with care, mending fences, stacking hay, checking animals, her hands strong, and practiced, her mind focused on each small detail. Moved nearby but not closes. Presence calm and consistent, no need for words to be understood. Silence full of trust and respect. She remembered the days when fear had pushed her from place to place, when desperation had driven her across miles, when she felt invisible and unsafe. Now those days seemed distant, the past still part of her, but lighter, carried with knowledge and understanding, not shame or fear. Cowboy occasionally spoke instructions or guidance, always clear and simple, never judgmental, always steady. She learned to notice the small details, which boards needed repair first, which animals were nervous after rain, which paths held loose stones. Observation strengthened her, not just as worker but as part of the land, a presence rather than an intruder. One afternoon, she paused by the fence, the sun warm on her back. She listened to the wind moving through the grass. She felt the quiet pull of reflection, memories. Surface times of struggle, times of fear, times of running from danger and judgment. She let them come, not to dwell, but to acknowledge each memory, a piece of her journey, each memory a reminder of how far she had come. Cowboy approached. He said nothing, just offered support by standing nearby. Space between them comfortable, she spoke softly to herself, remembering moments of loss and hope, the lessons learned from mistakes, The courage to keep going? He nodded once, a small gesture that meant more than words. It felt like permission to be herself. Fully days continued work steady and routine, the barn and land growing more familiar each day. She began to feel a deep connection, not just to the tasks but to the rhythm of life itself. She reflected on trust, how rare it was, how difficult it had been for her to find it, how the cowboy's quiet presence had shown her patience, had shown her the value of consistency. She carried water from the well, her hands strong from repetition, her movements practiced and confident. Each task a meditation. The land responded to care, grass grew greener, animals, calmer fences, sturdy and safe evenings brought quiet moments. They sat near the barn, watching the sun sink behind the hills. The sky, painted in shades of gold and pink, she spoke softly, not always to him, sometimes to herself, reflecting on the journey, the courage needed to speak her truth. Relief in being heard, he listened silently, his presence steady, not demanding attention, simply being there. She began to share small dreams, simple wishes for the future, hopes for the land, hopes for herself. The cowboy acknowledged, theme a nod, a gesture, a look enough to confirm understanding, and trust. Nights were quiet. She lay in her small room. Barn nearby, the wind gentle, the stars visible through the open sky. She thought of the past, the pain that had followed her, the fear that had shaped her decisions, the moments she had learned to be invisible. Now those shadows were softer, the fear replaced by courage and understanding. Her voice had been heard, her truth acknowledged. She walked the fields in the early morning, carrying feed and checking animals, the rhythm of work steady and grounding, her mind clear and alert. She noticed small details, a bird landing on a fence post, the way the wind bent the grass, the softness of horse fur under her hands. Each observation deepened her connection to the land, to life, to herself. She reflected on the lessons learned, the importance of presence, the value of quiet observation, the power of honesty and trust. The cowboy moved beside her, not speaking, actions deliberate, the silence full of understanding. She began to plan small projects for the barn, improvements to the landways, to care better for the animals. He proved with small gestures, not imposing ideas, not demanding attention, just steady support. The days blended in calm routine, each task meaningful, each moment grounding. She noticed changes within her, self-confidence growing, fear diminishing, courage strengthening. The town began to see her differently. Respect and recognition replaced whispers and doubt. She belonged now, not just at the barn, not just on the land, but in the hearts of those around her. She reflected on the journey from desperation to trust, from silence to speaking truth, from fear to courage. She knew challenges would come, but she also knew she had strength to face them. The past no longer dictated her present, the future open and possible. She carried water for the animals, stacked hay for the winter, mended fences to protect the land, each act a statement of resilience and care. He remained quietly attentive, present, steady, never intrusive, never demanding. She began to feel fully alive, her heart open to hope and possibility, her mind clear and focused, her body strong and capable. Evenings became moments of reflection, sitting near the barn, watching the sunset, feeling gratitude for the journey, for the land, for trust, for understanding. Spoke softly about her past, the lessons learned, the courage required to reach this place, the freedom found in speaking truth. He listened silently, acknowledging the gestures that needed no words, trust and understanding. Solidifying her life had transformed desperation and fear, replaced by presence and honesty, loneliness replaced by connection and safety. She walked the land at dawn, carrying feed to the animals. The wind on her face, the sun warming her back. She reflected on each challenge overcome, each fear faced, each truth spoken. She realized the power of quiet presence, the importance of patience, the value of steady support. Barn and land were not just shelters, they were symbols of growth and trust. Her courage reflected in every task, her resilience visible in every movement. She continued to work each day, tasks repetitive but grounding, each moment full of meaning. She spoke her thoughts softly, reflections on life and growth, on courage and trust on presence and understanding them. Cowboy listened, silently, gestures Small, but confirming understanding and trust evident sure. Felt hope bloom gently fragile, yet real the. Fear that had driven her west gone replaced by trust and courage the. Land responded to care and attention animals. Calm grass lush fences strong she smiled. At the sunrise, each day the wind on her face, the sound of animals around the sky wide and open her. Life felt full not because it was easy, but because it was honest, because it was grounded in trust and present she. Reflected on the journey from desperation to safety from fear, to courage from loneliness to connection, the cowboy remained a steady presence. His silence full of understanding, his actions showing respect and care. She began to dream again simple. Dreams for the land, dreams for herself, dreams for... The future evenings spent near the barn became sacred. Watching the sun set, feeling the calm and trust in the air reflecting. On lessons learned and challenges overcome, the days passed in a steady rhythm work in quiet moments, blending presence and trust. Creating strength and resilience, she noticed small changes in her self-confidence. In courage, growing fear and hesitation, diminishing resilience and patience. Strengthening, she knew she could face whatever lay ahead, the past no longer a burden in the future. Open her courage and truth, her foundation, the land and barn remained a sanctuary, the cowboy a constant witnesser. Own strength and honesty unshakable, she moved through each day with purpose and calm. Rhythm of work, grounding her, the quiet moments. Filling her mind and heart, she reflected on trust and honesty, how they had shaped her journey, how they had brought her here, how they had made her stronger. Each task completed a statement of growth, each moment of quiet reflection, a reminder of courage. Each interaction with the cowboy a lesson in trust. She felt fully alive, her heart open, her mind clear, her body strong. The sun rose and set over the land days, passed in steady rhythm to barn and animals, a constant source of purpose. The cowboy a steady present. She carried her truth with pride, no longer a weight but a strength. The past acknowledged and transformed the future full of possibility. She smiled at the wind on her face, the sound of animals breathing, the warmth of the sun, the calm of the land she had found. Courage she had found, trust, she had found hope. She had found herself. Morning came soft and calm over the wide land. She woke slowly, feeling the warmth of sunlight on her face. The barn smelled of hay and fresh earth. Her body stretched, easily, her mind alert and steady. She stepped outside and breathed in the crisp air. The wind moved gently through the grass. Birds called from trees and hills. The land stretched wide and open before her. The cowboy was already working, each movement deliberate and slow. He arranged feed and tools, his presence steady and grounding. She joined him, carrying water to the horses. Rhythm of work comforting and familiar, her hands strong from repeated tasks, her steps certain and deliberate. She looked across the fields and felt a deep connection. Land had become more than shelter. It had become a teacher and companion. Each day held lessons. The horses taught patience. The animals taught observation. The land taught resilience. She moved through chores with mending fences, stacking, hay checking. Each animal, her attention focused and deliberate. He worked nearby without speaking, the silence between them full of trust, understanding. In aspects she remembered the days when fear had driven her, and nights spent alone and desperate, the miles walked in search of safety and hope. Now those days felt distant. The past was still part of her, but softer and lighter, not heavy or pressing. She recalled moments of running, of hiding, of trusting the wrong people, the pain of being left alone. She let the memories rise and fall, not in sadness but acknowledgement, each memory a reminder of strength gained. Cowboy occasionally spoke simple instructions or guidance, always calm and deliberate, never judgmental, always steady. She began noticing details she had missed before, which boards needed repair, first which animals were nervous after rain, which paths held loose stones. Each observation strengthened her, not just as a worker but as someone connected to life around her. She paused one afternoon by the fence, the sun warm on her back, the wind soft on her face. She felt the quiet pull of reflection memories, surface times of fear, times of hope, times of running and being alone. She let them come, acknowledging each one, learning from them growing stronger with each thought. Cowboy approached silently. He did not speak. He simply stood beside Hertha. Space between them comfortable, she spoke softly to herself, reflecting on challenges and lessons on courage and resilience, and trust and patience. He nodded once, a small gesture, but full of meaning, permission to be herself fully. The days continued in steady rhythm work and care for the land and animals blending naturally, the barn a place of safety and purpose, the land a teacher and companion. She reflected on trust and honesty, how rare they were, how difficult to find, how essential they had been for her journey. She carried water for the animals, stacked hay for winter, mended fences to protect the land. Each action a statement of care and resilience. He remained quietly attentive presence. Steady, never intrusive, never demanding. She felt fully alive, heart open to hope, mind clear and focused, body strong and capable. Evenings were moments of quiet reflection, sitting near the barn watching the sun set behind the hills, feeling gratitude for the journey, for trust, for courage, for understanding. She spoke softly about her past lessons. Learned courage, gained truths, spoken freedom, found in honesty. Listened silently, acknowledging her courage and understanding with gestures, trust solidified without words. Her life had transformed, desperation replaced by trust, fear replaced by courage, loneliness replaced by connection and safety. She walked the land at dawn, carrying feed to the animals, wind on her face, sun warming her back, rhythm of work steady and grounding. She noticed small things, birds landing on fence posts, wind bending the grass, softness of horse for each detail, deepening her connection. She reflected on lessons learned, the way, hour of presence, the value of patience, the importance of steady support. The cowboy moved beside her, silently, actions deliberate, presence full of understanding. She began planning projects for the land, improvements to the barn, better care for animals. Her ideas practical and steady. He approved with small gestures, imposing ideas, not demanding attention, just steady support. Days blended in quiet routine, each task meaningful, each moment grounding. She noticed changes within her, self-confidence growing, fear diminishing, courage strengthening. The town noticed her transformation, respect and recognition replacing whispers and doubt. She belonged now not just on the land but in the community. She reflected on her journey, from fear to trust, from silence to speaking truth, from loneliness to connection. She knew challenges would come, but strength and courage had been built. The past no longer dictated the present, the future open and possible. She carried water and feed, stacked mended fences, each act a demonstration of resilience and care. He remained a quiet, constant presence, steady, never intrusive. She began to feel fully alive, heart open, mind clear, body strong. Sun rose and set over the land. Days passed in steady rhythm, barn and animals a constant source of purpose. Cowboy a steady presence. She carried her truth with pride, no longer a burden but a strength past, acknowledged and transformed, future full of possibility. She smiled at wind on her face, the sound of animals breathing, the warmth of sun, the calm of the land. She found courage and trust, hope and freedom. She had found herself. She walked the fields each day, carrying feed and water, checking on animals, the rhythm of work grounding and meaningful. She reflected on challenges, overcome fears, faced truths, spoken each one a step toward freedom. The power of quiet presence, patience and trust, resilience and honesty became her foundation. Barn and land were more than shelter. They were symbols of growth and trust. Her courage reflected in every task, her resilience visible in every movement. She continued work each day, repetitive tasks, grounding, quiet moments, nurturing her mind and heart. She spoke softly about reflections, lessons learned, courage gained, truths spoken. Cowboy listened silently, gestures confirming understanding and trust. She felt hope grow, fear gone, trust and courage filling her being. Land responded to carols, calm grass, lush fences strong. She smiled at sunrise, wind on her face, animals around, sky wide, an open life felt full, not easy but honest, grounded in trust and presence. She reflected on journey from desperation to safety, fear to courage loneliness to connection cowboy. A steady present silence full of understanding actions. Showing respect and care, she dreamed against simple dreams for land and self-hope. For the future evenings near barn, sacred watching sunset calm, and trust in air reflecting on lessons learned in days past. In rhythm work and quiet moments blending presence, and trust creating strength and resilience changes noticed in her self-confidence growing courage. Strengthening fear diminishing, she knew challenges would come. Strengthen clarity her foundation past. No longer burden future, open land and barn sanctuary, cowboy constant witness strength. In honesty unshakable, she moved each day with purpose rhythm of work grounding quiet. Moments filling mind and heart reflections on trust and honesty how they shaped. Journey brought her, here made her stronger each. Task a statement of growth. Each quiet moment, a reminder of courage each. Interaction with cowboy lesson in trust, she felt fully alive. Heart open mind. Clear body strong sun, rose and set over land days past. Steady barn and animals source of purpose cowboy, steady presence she. Carried truth with pride past transformed future, full of possibilities, mild at wind on face sound. Of animals warmth, of sun calm, of land found courage and trust hope and freedom she had. Found he,